All right. Well, it is time to do a special CNC weekend week show off schedule from what we normally do for the IDC Woodcraft channel. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, of course, and we have scheduled this special live because we are bringing in someone you've seen on YouTube. Who is from the UK? It's James Dean from James Dean Designs, and it brings in a new flavor that from what normally I bring into the channel, because James Dean has had experience with the smaller CNCs. He's got some fourth axis experience going on now, and he works with CarveCo and not the software I use, which is Vectric VCarve Pro. So in the background, I'm going to bring her out, is Julianne, the one that really runs the show at IDC Woodcraft. And so she's coming from the office, just hopping on board and making sure any questions are handled. And of course, any of the questions that you have, put question marks in front of them, and she will bring them up. So what I'm going to do is just say hi, Julianne, and then we'll put you in the background. Okay. we are not doing a special giveaway this time. This is just, coming in with someone else who's out there. So I'm just going to bring them on board first. I just want to say hello to the folks that are on board. We got Mark Lindsay here, and Chris Makes Stuff. Oh, cool. Carrie and Workshop Guitars. Wandering Star is here again. Misty Woods. We've got some good ones on here that have been on the evening show. James, I'm going to bring you on up, brother. How's it going?
It's going good, thank you. Thank you for having me on the channel and accommodating the different time zone.
Yeah, no problem. It actually kind of worked out really well for me. So you're coming in from the UK. We were just asking about the weather out there relative to the weather here, and you said you've had a warm spell out there. What's it normally like in the UK weather-wise?
Yeah, as I say, so far we've had a really, really nice spring, more sun than usual over the last couple.
It kind of normally rains out there, doesn't it? Uh-oh.
It's known for being a wetter country, yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, we've got all your rain going on here and the colder weather. So it's been like that. Very unusual for a Memorial Day weekend. It was too chilly to go to the swimming pool or anything. So anyway, so for the folks that are coming on board who don't know you, or those that do know you but don't quite is it me or is it
James? I don't know. It's not a good start to the show from my end, I think.
Okay, I think I backed out, or it was me or it was you. I'm not sure who we just lost. Anyway, so what's your backstory? Who are you, and how'd you get into CNC? And tell us about what your main focus is, your objectives are, your goals with the CNC.
So I love doing DIY and woodworking. And a few years ago, I started producing bits of furniture and pieces of art out of copper pipe. And they started to sell quite well, but I was getting requests for them to be. So I started to look into what was the, I suppose, easiest and cheapest way to start personalizing them, engraving them. And ultimately, that's when I came across the the much smaller CNCs, the 3018s. So took a bit of a gamble and bought one. I think it was about £160, something like that. Okay. And that's basically when I started with CNC machines. There was not a lot of
Oh, looks like I'm guessing it's him. Is it him or me, Julian? It's okay. It's James. So he's coming in and out a little bit. We'll just have to work with it and see how it goes. But anyway, so he's dropped off and coming back on. All right, there we go.
Sorry about that. I don't know what point I cut off.
Yeah, we lost you for a minute there.
So yeah, I bought a small. No problem. I'm not sure if it's my connection, but maybe it is. I do apologize, Garrett.
That's hey, you know what? Sometimes it's stuff.
So can you hear me?
Yeah. 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 Winfinity said, "Tell the mice to run faster. More power."
So yeah, I don't know what point I cut off, but the long story short was I brought a small CNC to start doing just little bits of engraving.
Mhm.
Turned out there wasn't a huge amount of and ultimately, so I decided to start recording my journey with them. Obviously, learning bits from other people along the way in the community, such as yourself, Mark Lindsay. There's a really great guy on some of the Facebook groups, Graham Bland. He used to write tutorials, so he gave me permission to turn his tutorials into videos. And that's really where I started with my CNC and YouTube channel.
Okay. All right. And so you worked with a small unit first. So was it a Gamatsu? What's the small unit that you really started on? Because I've never really worked with the smaller units. Um, it looks like it might be frozen up again, but in case you can hear me, I have not worked with the smaller units. And I get a lot of questions about that. And so James has done stuff with the smaller units. So James, you still on board? Nope, he's backing out. He's going to try another connection. You're going to try a different connection. All right, can you hear me?
I'll try. It's been working fine all day. This is, yeah, I do apologize. I can hear you, but it's a static image.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll try it a little bit more, and if it gets too bumpy, then we'll reschedule and do it again because the stuff that gets technical out of our hands, it just happens like that. But the smaller CNCs, or did it freeze up again? There you are. Smaller CNC router. What did you start with? Like a 3018?
Am I?
Uh-oh. Looks like they're losing them again. Well, folks, in the meantime, not sure. So maybe you can. I don't even have anything to announce for myself. Says James's connection trying to reconnect. This whole week has been kind of quiet. I am working on a video for our CNC brother Gary Lynn has asked about toolpath strategy, and so I'm working on a video that is talking about toolpath strategies and the mode of thought that you need to go through to come up with a toolpath. The vision of the project in your mind that you have that you're going to be holding, and what's it going to take to get there. Meaning you've worked on the design, but what does it need? Radiuses and angles and things like that, and then what tooling is going to enable you to get to that point, and the order in which you need to use that tools. So that's the video I am working on. So it's a beginner's tool, understanding the concepts of building up tool paths and the strategies behind that. So that's the video I'm working on. It's been kind of busy last couple days because, like I said, Wednesday I came to my grandkids, Thursday, and today I'm still here. And I got a 2-year-old grandkid that is all about Papal, and it's very hard to focus in other ways. But in the meantime, since we've kind of lost James, you can ask me some questions. You got me. I got some dedicated time here. He's literally not on connected here at all right now. So maybe he's trying to get a different connection set up. We got Jerry there. I got acrylic wood design. That's an acrylic wood. Garrett, I am enjoying the bits I purchased from IDC. Good. I hope that you like the M&Ms that you got with it. The little love notes that came on your package. Craig says, all right, looks like James is coming back. We're going to give it another whirl, but I'm going to let Craig. I've been doing CNC for about 2 years now, and James has shown me everything I need to know. A great guy. So there you go, James. You're back on board, and come on with a little shout out from Craig.
Hopefully this is better. Right. Feels more, yeah, I can certainly see you better now. So, right. Where was I? Where did I cut off?
Yeah. Comment from Wandering Star. Talk about 12.5 version 12.5. I just learned about it 2 days ago, so I haven't even installed it on my computer yet. I don't even know yet. But go watch Kyle's video that he talked about the release of that version 12.5. Okay, James, let's give it one more whirl, and if it doesn't work, we'll just reschedule and do it again. Right? So you're working with a smaller unit or you started with a smaller unit. What do you have now?
I've got a few different units. The smallest one that I've got is a FoxAlien 4040 machine. I do still actually have a 3018 machine in a box. The plan is to do another video, should we say, going back to the start and seeing how I view things now with a bit more experience. But that's a video for a few months down the line.
Okay. Is the 4040 is that like 400 millimeters by 400 millimeters? Is that what that means?
That's essentially the way the sizing of those desktop CNC machines work. So whatever number is referenced after it, that's typically the workspace in millimeters. So a 3018, 300 by 180, a 6060, 600 by 600. You thought they'd have done them in inches for the US, but
all right. What's the largest machine you have right now?
the largest machine I've got is the long mill.
Okay.
So I've got is it the 3248 long mill? So the biggest size they do.
30 by 48. So that's a step up. So what are you starting to notice the differences with the smaller units versus the big units? Then we'll talk a little bit about fourth axis.
I think there are two things. Obviously, the obvious one is the work area. The larger work area you have, you don't have to worry about tiling or the size of the material you can fit on there, because obviously a 3018 obviously has a small work area, but you can only fit small pieces of material on it as well. So the work area is a big difference, but also as the machines are getting bigger, so does the power increase. Larger stepper motors, obviously you can fit bigger spindles to them. They are generally a bit stronger as well in terms of their rigidity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as you're upsizing, things are getting bigger. Not just the machine, but the stuff that's driving it. The spindles, the motors that are the stepper motors. The amount of power that's going to the stepper motors has to also increase.
Exactly. Some of the smaller manufacturers are starting to catch up now, so they're doing these smaller machines, but with linear rails, with NEMA 23 stepper motors. So as I say, that they are catching up, but it's should we say it's a lot of power condensed into a smaller area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how long have you been doing CNC now?
Ooh, I think I'm coming up to around 5 years from when I first got my 3018.
Okay, so we kind of jumped on the bandwagon about the same time then.
It was for me. I think it was the Christmas before COVID when I got the machine, and then going into COVID, I should we say had spare time to do videos, as a lot of people had spare time.
Yeah, yeah, nothing else to do. So now you're starting to work with Rotary, right? So is the Rotary? Are you using the one from the long mill? We'll just folks, for those of you who don't know, we will link the machine that he's using so you can see it. We'll put it in the description and in the comments. Are you using the Vortex Rotary?
Yeah, so I'm quite fortunate in that I've technically got 3 different rotaries at the moment. The biggest one being the Vortex on the long mill, which is quite impressive. I think that does something like 40 inches in length. So you know, you can machine baseball bats on it, which is obviously brilliant. And then I've down to the smaller ones on the like the Sainsmart machines, where their capacity is obviously a lot less. I think they take up to maybe 6 inches, something like that.
Okay, that's pretty good. So I've seen on the long mill side. I don't know if you've played with this, like with the baseball bat concept, but they made a baseball bat, and I think it was inlaid. Have you made an inlay for a round shape like that?
Not yet, no. The one of the biggest things with fourth axis at the moment is software. So I mean, you know, there's I don't know what 10, 15 pieces of CNC, decent CNC software out there, whereas only a handful really cover fourth axis.
Okay.
And then the ones that do true fourth axis, where it's like full 3D modeling, that's even less. There's only, I don't know, 2 or 3 pieces of software that really cover those. So yeah, learning the software to be able to do that is yeah, still part of my challenge.
Yeah. So what are you learning when it's coming relative working with a 3D or the XYZ planes, uh, and then working with a rotary? What's the difference that you're noticing that's creating a new challenge?
So some of the pieces of software that do rotary, they treat it basically like a flat plane, like you're normally doing with your CNC, and then it wraps it around a cylinder. To some degree, that's easier to understand because most people will be used to designing on a flat surface. It's then when you start switching over to trying to do it in a 3D environment, because even though it's a 3D object, you can obviously still only machine vertically down. So trying to do something like an inlay where all the tool paths are trying to come into the middle, I'd say that's one of the challenges. And then obviously on a normal flat surface, you typically either set your Z at the top of the material or at the bed. Whereas sometimes on a fourth axis, you can set it from the center of the material. So it's just those little quirks, almost learning the different ways to treat the material, depending on whether you're starting with a cylinder or whether you're starting with a square block of wood. It's just understanding those little quirks.
Yeah. You design your rotary stuff? Well, you're doing it all in CarveCo. You're not doing anything in Vectric, right?
No, so I mainly use CarveCo. If I'm doing, as I say, the flat wrap approach, then I'll use CarveCo Maker, which is what I use 90% of the time. Some of the demonstrations that I did on my latest fourth axis video, that was in a piece of software called Desk Proto, which is probably, if you're really after true fourth axis software, that's probably one of the better ones available at the moment. But in terms of, say, some other CNC areas, then obviously I'd typically stick with my primary software, CarveCo, or in your case, Vectric.
Okay. Looks like I got a couple of questions already, and so I'm going to bring one out. Here's from Anita. All right. Is there a limit on how high the spindle can be set in the spindle clamp on a
The miss shoot, yeah, it's the FoxAlien miss shooter. Um, Technically, no. As long as it can grip it, it should be safe. But there's still an element of, I suppose, common sense, especially if you're using a larger router. You don't want it just gripping that tiny last little bit of the spindle, because then it may be a little bit unsafe. But generally speaking, if it's got a good grip, it should be safe.
Okay. I'm looking that machine up because I don't see a lot of these. Okay. So I see it here. Okay. Just so folks who see what machine I think we're talking about this machine. I'm going to share screen real quick. Right there. So is this what we're talking about right here?
Yeah, that's one of them. That's one of the newer models. They originally released the first version 2 or 3 years ago, and then they've tried to advance it on every couple of years.
Okay. And the spindle on that looks like it's one of those smaller spindles, right?
It is. It's one of the lower powered ones. I think the standard machine may be a 70-watt spindle, and then the next one up is a 400-watt spindle.
Okay, so when you started off with your smaller machine, did it have these smaller spindles on them?
They did. The 3018 machine only has a 60-watt spindle, and I think it's capped to around 10,000 RPM.
Okay.
So, things do take a little bit longer on those smaller machines.
So these smaller spindles, they obviously have lower torque, but they also tend to have lower RPM, right? And I see a lot of them, they only have like a max of 10,000 RPM. And so when I set up my tooling databases, I'm used to working with things that can go up to 24K, and so it's one of those things I need to get that data out there for the lighter power machines. But how have you had to dial your speeds and feeds down because of that?
The the honest answer is with a lot of experimenting. So, most of the feed and speed calculators out there, don't they accommodate for what the bit can handle, not necessarily what the machine can handle. So it's really a case of starting at a very safe speed, a very shallow depth of cut, and in some cases just doing multiple tests until you get to a point where you're comfortable with.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to work on that one because I do need to accommodate those people. I think I'm probably going to need to tap into your brain a little bit for that. Generally, the smaller spindles, though, do those tend to go up to 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter spindle size?
You can fit a 1/4 inch bit in there. You have to be very conservative with them. I mean, they can even take like surfacing bits, but obviously you're talking, very thin, light passes every time you use them.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because that's what I'm going to bring this up. There was no surfacing bit out there that at the time when I was looking for them, and people were asking me about them. So we came up with a surfacing bit. I actually told my tooling company I want a surfacing bit for a 1/8 shank tool, and they said we can't do that. And I always like to quote Henry Ford when companies tell me we can't do that. It's too. I'll tell them, well, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, but I'm still going to have it. It's just another way of saying you can do it, or I'm going to find somebody that will.
It's a very good point.
Yeah. Are there? So I've got one. I'm bringing it up here. I've got the surfacing bit here. This is actually 1/8 shank by 19 millimeters or 3/4 inch diameter surfacing capability. Have you found other surfacing bits out there?
I've never used a 1/8 bit surfacing bit. Typically I would use the 1/4 inch ones. But no, I think yours is the only one I've seen at that size.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool to be the only one that has it. Now I've searched for it again too. So there you go, folks. If you're looking for a surfacing bit for the 1/8 shank spindles, the lower power spindles, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the settings that I would have to use on that because I didn't try it out on a smaller machine. Julianne, we need to send one of those to James so he can give us some feedback on that. So James, we'll send a couple bits out to you so you can play with it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Do that one. It'd be actually cool if you could take at some point take a little time just so you can dial in that surfacing bit for the smaller machines.
Yeah, it's useful data for people.
Say again?
It's useful data.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I like to capture the data by actually using it instead of guessing, obviously. We've had to go back and revisit the chip loads on our tooling because we really didn't collect a lot of chip load data. And so we're literally every tool has been gone through chip load now. And so now we're getting that data provided because a lot of people ask for it. Got a question from Cedric. He says, is there a place where we can square the rotary? He was looking to set a two-piece. Sorry, I got to bring this text size up.
It's okay. I can see it. So is there a place where we can source the rotaries? Different companies make different rotaries, so it's really about finding, obviously, if your manufacturer already makes one, they're definitely the best place to go to. Otherwise, as I say, Sainsmart make one. Onefinity have got one. Obviously, CNC Labs have got one. I think the Onefinity comes in adjustable lengths with different lengths poles, similar to the Vortex one. They've got different length plates, so you can basically extend it. But they're usually fairly simple in their concept. So if you wanted to extend it further than their standard setup, it's usually not too difficult to find a way around that.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I got it. Yeah. I definitely was misreading that question. Yeah. Definitely. So for source, always go back to the machine company first and see what, if they don't have one, what do they recommend that would work?
Exactly. Right. I think all of those were manufacturer specific. Pawn CNC, I think, do one that is more generic, I believe, but I've never actually used theirs, so I can't really comment on it.
Yeah. Yeah. PWN. Yeah. So they have a rotary now? Is that what you're saying?
I believe they do.
We'll have to follow up with that. Definitely have to follow up with that. So, I'm just taking a look at the comment here. Oh, so Wandering Stars is giving Cedric some advice. The CNC Vortex 30 inches rail kit has a working length of 22, and 48-inch rail kit has a working length of 40 inches. So I got this kit. I've had it for probably 8 months, and I have not set that thing up yet. And it's like been on my agenda to do it. It's like, why do these other little things keep popping into the middle of this whole thing? So I know it's something I want to get onto. So Timber Falls is, what is the name of the software that does true 3D rotary? The one you said before.
Desk Proto, so PROTO.
Okay, we'll find a link for that and throw that in there. So what makes that software good?
So they, like most of the top software companies, they have different levels of their product. Okay. The highest one that they have is called the multi-axis license, which is really targeted at fourth axis. But what makes it so easy is there's a wizard that walks you through it. So, you literally load in your file, you tell it how big your piece of material is, you tell it what bits you want to use, and it sort of takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. There's still a few parameters you need to set, but for the most part, the wizard does make it quite simple.
Okay. Are you on the computer where you have that software?
I do. Yep.
Yeah. So can you share that so we can see it? I'd like to see it.
Bear with me 1 second.
Okay.
Let's try and bring a project up that I've already opened.
Okay, and yeah, there's another question hanging out there. We'll get to that question in just a moment.
Right, let me.
Yeah, so folks, even though I have done a ton of CNC work through my career, and I even worked on indexers, which is a rotary, basically, a lot of rotary work. And of all the CNC work that I've done that way, that's the one thing I don't remember. I have to learn all over how to ride a bicycle on that one.
Right, I think I'm trying to share my screen. Has it come through?
I'll bring it there. Oops, there you
go. So the first stage is loading in your 3D model. Obviously, you can see it on screen. You literally set a few parameters like how big you want the model to be. You can size the model before the size of your material. You can change the orientation of it. Because obviously you may want to cut in different ways. I'll put that back to normal. You can tell it what side of the model you consider to be the top. So you can really play around with the 3D model before you even start to bring it in relation to your material. Then on the next screen, you can set the boundaries of your material. You can tell it whether it is a block of wood, a cylinder of wood, you can adjust the tabs on the end. So like when you're cutting on a flat surface and you're cutting something out, obviously you add bridges in or tabs to hold it in place while it's cutting. Similar thing with the fourth axis, you can put the two little tabs on the end of it, so that once the job's done, you then just, I don't know, use a handsaw to cut it out. You can set where the 0 point is, whether it's the center of the material, the top of the material, or you can put specific measurements in for how deep you want it to machine into your material.
Okay.
You set the bit same process as you do with normal CNC, and you set the bits you want for the roughing pass. You can change the strategy that you use, whether it's parallel, whether it is constantly rotating as it cuts. So sometimes it will just go left and right on the axis, but alternatively you can tell it to cut in a spiral, so it's constantly rotating as it's cutting.
Okay.
And again, you can set things like your safe Z height or the amount of material that you want left on the outside for the roughing pass. Again, similar process, you pick your bits for the finishing pass, you can set the speed of your feed rate, spindle speed, and then ultimately it does all the hard work for you. This may obviously take a couple of seconds because it's a fairly complex 3D model. But yeah, so and then it does all the hard work. So let's say in some general areas of CNC, it lacks in comparison to other CNC software. But for the true 3D fourth axis, it's the best piece of software I've found out there so far.
So does that work even better than the CarveCo?
It's better than CarveCo, better than Vectric. I'm pretty sure it's easier than Fusion 360 as well.
Okay. Huh. All right. Cool.
I think, I'm not 100% sure that the top versions of Vectric and CarveCo both do this. So it would be Aspire and CarveCo Pro, but I've never used either of those. But I just know that this is pretty simple to work through, albeit a little bit slow calculating.
All right. So you're finding this, it's a friendlier interface that makes more user intuitive.
The wizard is really intuitive. Yeah, you can do it manually and not use the wizard, but the wizard's there to make life easier, so you may as well make use of it.
Okay. And so what it's doing now, it's doing calculations. Is that correct?
It's doing all the cam calculations. So it's just being a shade slow because it's quite a large piece.
Huh.
Maybe I'll show you in a second once it's finished calculating.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, in the meantime, let's get this other question here. So I have a let's see, a Sienci Model XL Pro 4030 V2 with upgrade 2.2 kilowatt spindle, and I have fourth axis. Can you please tell me work with 20 or quarter speed drill? Spindle? Oh, spindle. Okay. What's the best or recommended? And thank you. So
I'm not sure if you're asking the best feeds and speeds or the best software. I think if it's the software side of things, then possibly something like Desk Proto for the Rotary. If it's the feeds and speeds, that's the golden question that catches everyone out, because obviously that's all relative to the material you're using and the specific spindles or bits. So sorry, I can't give a definite answer on the feeds and speeds there.
Okay. Yeah. So do you notice a difference when it comes to speeds and speeds when you're working with a spindle relative to flat?
Definitely. The rotaries and fourth axis typically need to machine a little bit slower. I think because obviously they're only clamped in at either end, they're not quite as secure. There are ways to clamp them even better or screw them into a holding plate, but you usually find you'd run them a little bit slower than you would a normal job.
Okay, so the rotary moves slower than the rest of the machine. So in that case, it's dialing down the spindle speed to accommodate the feed change.
A little bit. They can still cut pretty deep into the wood. And I know when I was in Atlanta earlier in the year, I was seeing the Onefinity Revolution run, and they were running that at some really high speeds. So I think obviously, again, as the rotaries are getting bigger and better, the speeds are being increased on them as well.
Okay. So we got Timber Falls is which version are you using? Free entry or expert? So I guess for the software, the rotary software.
So the version you'll need is it's called the multi-axis license. I think if it's for personal use, I want to say it's maybe around $300, but it's a what's it called? A perpetual license, so it's a one-off payment.
Yeah. So, the idea of the free versus paid software, sometimes this is just kind of a general food for thought to share with those who are watching. A lot of times we like free, but we also know that we are going to get what we pay for as well. And so, but free is good to experiment with, but companies step off of free. Number one is because they're offering the full use of their stuff, and there's a lot of work that goes into putting software together. Uh, you never know behind how much work goes into things behind the scenes to make that software you just saw work, and all the little variants that have to come into play and turn into logic.
They take a lot of work. I mean, I work pretty closely with the CarveCo team, and I know like how many developers they've got working on stuff. But the free, I mean, I started on free software. So when I started, it was Easel, their free package, which I still recommend a lot of people start there because it's very simple to get going. But what often happens is people outgrow that software quite quickly once they get stuck in.
Yep. Okay. So we got another one. What is recommended using the size of bits?
For a rotary, it's a similar principle to normal CNCing. You can use whatever size bit is needed for the job. So if you are, if you're doing a roughing pass, then something like a 1/4 inch upcut bit is perfect just to rip through that material. Or I forget what is it the Badger? Your roughing
Oh
tool.
yeah, the beast.
The
Yeah.
beast, yeah. You can use something like that. That will still work on a rotary. Obviously, when you get to the finishing pass and you want that finer detail, then you'd switch to something, like a smaller bit, like a tapered bullnose.
Okay. Yeah. And when it comes to the beast, we'll send you the beast too, so you can experience the beast.
I can make a lot of sawdust.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really surprising how much of a difference with the long mill. Here's just a heads up that the bit is stronger than the machine. So just remember that when we're getting uh, hyper aggressive, the machine is going to suffer before the bit does. That's what I have experienced with my long mill. So that's a good thing. At least we know the bit is not the one that's going to be the challenging point. All right. So Anita is saying we've been trying to determine the best step over for our bits to eliminate all the lines left on the project. We have taken this down to 22% for 1/8 upcut end mill. Lines still visible. Any ideas?
Um, Chances are, if you're still seeing lines, it's about the tramming of your machine, which is, I mean, a lot of people may know, but it's about how perpendicular your spindle is to the bed itself, and that's usually the main cause of lines. It's normally more prominent on larger bits, but you'll still get it on smaller bits. So yes, you could reduce that step over down even more, but you may still see the lines. So I would suggest checking the tramming of the machine first.
Yeah. The tram. Another thing, Anita, that I have found too is the direction of cut relative to the grain of the wood. When I'm doing a finish cut on my projects, I like to do what we call a raster cut as opposed to an offset cut. And the raster is where we make the bit go back and forth, and it'll move across the project as it's going back and forth. And if I do that back and forth move along the grain, uh, you're not seeing the witness lines. Whereas if the tool is moving across the grain, then you're gonna get witness lines because of the variation in the density of the wood. And they call it witness lines or machine marks, tool marks. So that's another thing too. Make sure you're trammed in, and then try changing it to a raster cut.
Yeah, and just to add to your point there as well, a lot of people don't realise, even if you're going with the grain is still a bit like carpet. The fibers will go in one direction.
Yes.
So actually, if you're cutting with the grain and still getting lines, maybe spin your piece of wood around 180 degrees, and you may find you get a better result.
That's actually an interesting point. It's kind of like when you're cutting a lawn, right? When you're cutting a lawn, you're cutting one way. You can literally see the stripes from the lawnmower because the grass is pushed one way and then it's pushed the other. So I'm glad you said that. That's one of those interesting little things. I got a question. James, will only CNC be supporting will only CNC be supporting the fourth axis?
So Craig is somebody that's followed me for a while, and one of my background projects is it's called Only CNCs, and this is all about catering to the feeds and speeds of the smaller desktop CNC machines. So that is, as I say, that's an application I've been working on for the last couple of months. But sadly, no, at the moment, it won't be catering for fourth axis, but it may be an opportunity for development in the future.
Yeah. So okay. So if I'm reading this right, then you just explained it, but I didn't quite register. So we're putting rotary on a 3-axis machine to turn it into a 4th axis. So we're the ones that do the planes. Are you talking about one that is designed specifically just to be a rotary?
No, so what, like in a similar way, you've got your feeds and speeds app. I've been developing one solely dedicated to the smaller desktop CNC machines.
Okay.
And it's quite a simple process. You select the machine you're using, the spindle or the router, select your machine, select your bit, and it will give you a safe working range. I think what Craig is asking, will those feeds and speeds be relative to a fourth axis? Which at the moment, no, but as I say, it may be a possibility for the future.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I misinterpreted the question. No more questions sitting out there, but that's okay. They'll come up if they got more. Um, what are your plans moving forward? You do a video and you put out a video about what, once a week, roughly, from what I've seen.
Last year, I was aiming for once a week. I think I put out, I want to say about 46 or something, so I didn't quite make it. I'm not, you know as well as anybody else, it's tiring putting videos out every week, so I'm trying to take a little bit of a step back. And as I say, one, focusing on this feeds and speeds app, but also, as I say, just to take a short break from YouTube, but then hopefully make, I suppose, better content going forward. So probably less videos, but all being well, higher quality videos, and get back to making useful tutorials and projects.
Yeah, that's actually been my focus lately too. Is let's get back to the high quality content, and not worry about volume so much. And it's just more aligned with who I am and how I want to provide. So it takes more time to put out a good solid video. And folks, for anybody who is on the other end of YouTube, um, we invest a lot of time to do this kind of stuff. It's shooting a video is whatever videos they're watching of me, and James can certainly uh, agree with this, is you're watching about, I would say, a 20th at best of what we've done as far as video goes. The setup time, the setting up the lights right, the camera, making sure audio is working, the retakes.
Yes, many retakes in my case.
Yeah, me too. Um, so Homer is asking, anyone doing height maps on and and probing?
Probing. So height maps and probing usually comes from your control software. not all control software can do it, but I think UGS can, I think G-Sender can, some of the others may do as well. It's a good question because there's not a huge amount of tutorials out there on that. Okay,
Yeah. So just to get the context of this right, when we're talking about height maps, we're talking about terrain type of maps. Is that correct?
I think he's referring to things. So, for example, if you go to machine a PCB board,
Okay.
that's really delicate to the precision of the height of how much you're machining through it. So what you usually do is probe the board in, I don't know, like maybe 12, instead of just doing a probe with the Z once, you would like probe in maybe like 12 different locations.
Okay.
And if there's any discrepancies in that material, the software will map that into the G code that you've already got.
Okay.
So it's usually, as I say, for most people doing probing is more a case of the finer work like PCB boards.
Right.
That's if I've understood the question right.
Yeah, I think I'm getting that question the same way too. So on that note, I know that Shark. Why am I drawing a blank? Next Wave has that capability on their machine, so you can actually take a warped piece of board and you can probe a bunch of different points on it, and you don't have to plane the board down. You can it'll take that into account. There's not many CNCs that have that feature in it to do that. So yeah, Next Wave's got that. We'll link Next Wave so you can look into that and ask them about it. When we were at one of the shows, he showed me how it worked. I was like, dang, that actually does work.
It's a cool feature when you need to use it.
Right. Homer's saying, oops, GRBL plotter. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, technically, any CNC machine can be a plotter. It's changing the spindle for a pen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there are a few companies out there that make attachments to do that. Alternatively, if you've got a 3D printer or got access to a 3D printer, there are tons of models out there that you can print that literally drop straight into your CNC where the spindle is, and you can put a pen in there, put a Sharpie in there, and just plot away.
Yep. We even have a tool for that. It's
perfect.
Yeah. Let's see if I can bring it up so y'all can see it. I gotta end that share and bring up a new share so we can find that. It's kind of cool. I mean, we actually move a lot more than I ever expected of this tool. And where this comes in really handy, that I have found from users, is when they're making puzzles or things that need really tight fit, that they need to they want to draw it first on the machine to make sure. And so that's what we have. It's called the shark tooth, and that comes from Next Wave, by the way. So that's their product. We opted to put that on our site. So very cool. We'll link that in here too. I got to bring Julianne up on this one just because it's kind of interesting that how many we move of these things, James. Julianne, these shark tooth tools. When we finally started running those last year, how many of these things do we like move? Because I know you're
more than I ever expected. I actually need to put in another order for more now, but yeah, they're really popular. For our first order, we ordered about, I think, 50 of them to see how it would go, and then within, I think,
only 10.
Well, I don't know. I thought it was more than that. Either way, we got down to 10 pretty quick, and those went too. So.
I think one of the big selling points for me is there's no noise. So those people who want a CNC machine but live in like an apartment where they're surrounded by other people, you can run them very quietly and still produce pieces on those machines.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. They fit Sharpies, Sharpie markers. So they fit finer point markers. We got off-brand Sharpies, and it didn't fit those. They were just a little bit too fat. So, all right, thanks, Julianne. So anyway, we'll link that. I would love to see what people are actually. I usually get pictures from people, projects they make, with the tools from IDC Woodcraft, and I would love to see what somebody does with that because I've not gotten any pictures of people using that tool.
I was at an event in the UK a couple of weeks ago called Maker Central, and I thought I had a photo. I was going to try and show it, but they had a few of the smaller desktop CNC machines, and they were all fitted out with pens. So they were bringing children along, and they were controlling the pens using a gamepad. So they were literally using the gamepad to draw live using the CNC. It was
very cool.
It was brilliant to see, kids playing with these machines.
That sounds fun. Homer has said he's looking for the code JavaScript. In order to do what he was talking about. I don't know. I mean,
JavaScript goes over my head as well, to be honest.
Yeah,
That's more the back end coding.
Yep. That's where it's like, this is where let's go to the designers, ask them. But you can ask a CNC company, ask a few CNC companies about that. They're the ones that are doing all the design work. All right, then let's see. Can I use software using Probe for adjusting the top of my fourth axis? Oh, that's interesting.
You can. Yeah. So the probing works in the same way, regardless whether it's a fourth axis or normal 2.5 CNC. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that people almost treat fourth axis like it's completely different, where in reality 99% of the principles are exactly the same. Usually all the same functions work on the 2.5D design as it does for the 3D design.
Yeah, so for most of the rotary stuff that we do, just think of it as a flat piece of wood that's been wrapped, that's been turned into a round thing, or you can unwrap it. So what are the two 3D types? Is parametric and the what's the other one? When you're doing like rotary, you got 3D parametric, and then the other one of them you can get underneath in 3D stuff.
Oh yeah, that's when you start getting into the realms of fifth axis, isn't it, where you can come back underneath. There's probably a different name for it, but
yeah. And folks, for those who are not normally on my channel or on the lives, and you're seeing Mark Lindsay doing drink, it's whenever I make a statement that Julianne needs to do something, like put a link in, right? It's something that just started happening on our channel, and so whenever I make that request, then that's what we do. So you always bring a drink to the table when you come to the IDC Woodcraft Lives. There you go. And we'll send him the new mug too. You'll be the first recipient of the new IDC Woodcraft coffee mug.
Oh, look forward.
Yeah, first recipient. Julianne, you have to share with folks what it is. Bring a mug out. She's gonna go get a mug. We just got a brand new mug. We've had this plastic mug that we send out, and so we'll still have the plastic one, but this is going to be kind of an extra treat. That so you can come up whenever you're ready. All right.
Great. Do a great reveal.
Da, 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 da. Oh, you got to focus. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, nice. It's like a campfire coffee mug. You're blurring out because of the settings you got for the thing, so you can't. There you go.
Trying to get it at a good angle.
Yep. On the back it says "Feed the Machine." That's Liberty came out with that slogan, so we just feed the machine.
It's
so
very good.
That's the tea mug or coffee mug that you'll get. But thank you, Julianne. That was like the first reveal that we actually did on this mug.
It's good to still have mugs. Everyone's switching to these like the coffee cups with the caps, aren't they? So it's nice to just always have a good old-fashioned mug.
Yeah. exactly what it is. When we saw it, it's like it just gives you that campfire feel. So, Donald, can you cut wooden threads on the 4th axis?
You can. So I've not personally done it, but I've seen people machine out like wooden bolts. So as long as you have the 3D model or you're capable of creating that thread, then absolutely it can be machined out.
Yep. Yeah, I don't see. Absolutely, you can do it. We used to do it on CNC machines professionally. CNC machines professionally do it all the time, so it can be done here as well. Chris makes stuff. What would you like to see innovated on current rotary axis for CNCs in general?
That's a good question. So I'd like to see maybe a bit more flexibility in the way they are built. So at the moment, they're sort of limited to what size piece of material you can put in them, and that's due to the way the structure of the frame's been designed. So whether there's a way to hire the what you want to call it, like hire the chuck up or something, so you can put something bigger in there. I think certain pieces of software are moving forward quite well as in terms of probing off them. So I know for G-Sender and probably other machines as well, it can probe directly off the motor itself, so you don't actually need a separate Z probe to do it. So yeah, I'm not sure how much further they can be advanced, but I'm sure somebody more clever than me will come up with ideas.
Yeah, yeah. Those. Well, I'm going to say with the advent of AI, I am almost sure that there is going to be a transition in the home-based CNC market that's going to adapt that when the machining companies really take up AI. It undoubtedly is going to trickle into our space. So I know that you can already get like STL files through AI. And it's actually some pretty cool ones at that. Um, but I think that's what's going to be there in a way. It's for us who like to create stuff, sometimes it takes some of the creativity out of it, but it also opens the door for new people to come in. And it's like any industry, it starts. It always any industry starts young, and it starts with your first in people, and they tinker with it. Then it matures, and then it not just matures, but then the maturity, it becomes common, and then it just keeps advancing, and then goes through its transition. It's kind of like cars. I remember when I was a kid, having a car with power windows was like for the ultra rich. That's how far back I go. Now you almost cannot get a car without power windows.
And I think that's what's great about the general CNC environment at the moment is the different companies, the way they're competing against each other. They're pushing the machines that we have along so quickly, in bringing them, making them much more affordable to us as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I have one that I am improvement that I want to see, which is a more effective with the tool changing for your, right now you can buy tool changers. I want it to be even faster than that, easier than that. Not having to spend $1,000, or $2,000 on a tool changer for CNC, but have a very quick and easy way to do it.
That's a really good point. So one thing I haven't seen yet is anybody doing a tool change whilst using a 4th axis. So maybe that would be a nice advancement to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something. Yeah, I'll have to get my engineering brain to work on it. I actually, so at IDC, right? As a business expands, the the needs of the company expands as well. Yeah, so I've got an amazing core team. Julianne, Liberty, Adam, Richard. Folks don't know Richard; he's our tech guy, and then the satellite people, some of our other helpers. It just so the company has gotten big enough that now more people need to be brought on board. I do all the tooling specifications and sourcing and stuff, and so it's like I need a product manager, not just a sourcing person, but who has the CNC knowledge, can look at a CNC bit and determine, the stuff like that, and then the CNC accessories, and then coming into things like, how can we come up with a faster tool change method that doesn't cost $1,000? Right. All right.
We'll see soon, hopefully.
What's that?
I was about to say we'll see soon. I'm sure one of the companies will bring it out.
Yep.
In the near future.
Maybe we'll have to partner up with somebody and get them to do that. All right. So Anita is saying, can you use a 2.5-inch bit on the Masuda Pro quarter or 1/8 inch collet? So a 2.5-inch surfacing bit, I'm assuming, or is that 1/2 inch length?
You can. I probably wouldn't. I think that's probably a bit too large, either whether it's the length or the diameter. That's probably a bit too big for those machines.
Yeah. So if we're talking 2.5-inch diameter, that's a lot of mass on a tool.
Yeah.
And the spindle power, so it's going to take it 5 minutes to get up to speed. So it doesn't have a lot of torque there. So
Sorry, she just clarified and said length.
Yeah.
So yeah, you technically can. There is enough travel in the machines. It's just being careful what material you're cutting into. So if you're cutting into softer materials, it may be okay. I think if you're cutting into harder materials, your different hardwoods, something like acrylic, it may be a bit too much for the machine.
All right. Okay. Onefinity said their ATC is only $625. So it's not $1,000 for their ATC as a tool changer. Let me go find their tool changer. Julianne, will you find their tool changer, please, so we can share it on screen? So there you go. Onefinity's got a tool changer, and I'm sure that they built it so it's adaptable to other pieces of equipment.
I believe I want to say theirs is the first one not to use pneumatics, I believe. So it threads itself.
Yes, it's got the reverse. Yeah, and I have not seen that in action. So I've met Stone from ATC a couple of times, and from Onefinity, and they've been at the shows, but I haven't actually seen it. So guys, next time you're at a show, if you're Workbench Con, or we're going to, there you go. There's our ATC. I would love to see that in action, because as IDC Woodcraft expands its product line, this is a natural course to get into, is the ATCs. So, and I need to talk to them about machines on our website too. So just make a note of that, Onefinity. We gotta talk. Get hold of Julianne.
So a channel exclusive here for you, Garrett. I've actually just got a Onefinity, so that will be on my channel over the next couple of months. I haven't actually told anybody yet, so I haven't got the ATC, but I'm really looking forward to building the Onefinity.
Yeah, it's a heavy machine for sure. It's got bulk to it, right? You look at it, it just feels like it's got girth. I'm not sure how you say that, but so let's. They'll be at the AWFS, and it'll be there. And we are not planning on doing AWFS this year, are we, Julianne? No. I got a big fat head nod. No. So at least if anybody goes, it'd be a very short trip for us. All right. Well, we'll talk. So, how do you use surfacing bits on fourth axis?
You probably wouldn't. You technically could, but you would still end up taking shallow passes off, because I'm trying to think the best way to explain this. I don't know if I have anything to hand. Obviously, the cylinder or your block of wood is quite round, so your surfacing bit's going to be quite flat and wide. So there's only ever going to be a part of the material, like a thin part of the material, touching the bit itself. So I personally wouldn't use those. I'd stick to things such as your normal end mills, your upcut, your downcut bits.
On rotary, generally we think of rotary. We got the fourth axis, and then we got the x-axis, right, which is running across it. But have you done any y-axis work with your rotary as well? Does it accommodate that as well?
Most of them don't. So for the most part, it will just you effectively lock your y-axis off.
Okay.
So yeah, and obviously the rotation takes care of it beyond that.
Okay.
I know they are getting more advanced now, but yeah, most machines, as I say, lock the y-axis off, so you typically don't move that once you've got it in position.
Right. Okay. All right. We're going to take a few more and then start getting ready to knock off. So Timber Falls Sands, CNC and AI will be integrated within a year. I predict already can do vectorization with ChatGPT. Whether you guys use this tool. Oh, so I haven't vectorized anything in ChatGPT, but I have had it. I played with it a little bit to optimize my G code, but it did not do a very good job on the one time I played with it. But ChatGPT is really powerful. People don't realize what it's capable of, and that's just ChatGPT. Yeah, I agree. AI is definitely getting to get step on this stage. What were you going to say, James?
Oh, I was just going to say, and the thing with all the different AI technology out there, it's about what you put into it as well. So the more that you can tailor your input and get the commands correctly, the better results you're going to get from the end of it. But I completely agree with Jason at Timber Falls that within the next 12 months we're going to see a lot more AI integration across the CNC world.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we can just talk to our machine and it'll do what we tell it.
Yeah. Soon it'll be like Star Trek. You just talk to it and it'll take care of it for you. Mark Lindsay said Avid just came out with an ATC as well. So ATCs are actually jumping out from a lot of different companies. It's very interesting that now that's becoming, because the core CNC equipment has matured so much. And we got the Infinities, we got the Alt Mills, the Spocos. Everybody's getting really mature with their equipment. And like you said, now they're starting to what's the market asking for now? And that's where I kind of focus my attention is I'm either finding a problem that they don't know they have yet, right, or looking at an inconvenience and how can I fix that inconvenience. All right, James, let's see. Danny is saying, James, how can you do a cleanup pass in Easel Pro after I have done the roughing and detail?
The easiest way to do a cleanup pass, usually, if you've done a roughing and a detail pass, is to run the detail pass again. That's usually the only way to do a cleanup pass at the end of it. You can often run the detail pass though at a higher speed once you've done it once. So for example, let's say you're running it at I don't know, 50 inches a minute, you may bump that up to something like 70 inches a minute and just rerun it over it again, and it should clean up some of the wispy bits.
Okay, and let's make this the last question from Homer. Anyone creating STLs from photos? Have you done any of that?
I've not done it. I know there are a few different pieces of different AI software out there creating it. Otherwise, at the moment, it's a pretty manual process. Putting it into something like CarveCo Maker or Vectric Aspire, and physically pulling it out. I know Jason from who we just mentioned. Jason done it a few times on the CarveCo group. But yeah, I think this is where AI is going to start to play a big part over the coming year in being able to do that automatically.
Yeah. So Homer, here's a suggestion for anybody who's interested. I don't know if this will work or not, but take your image into ChatGPT and tell it you want to create an STL. Now you'll have to prompt it the right way. All right. So if you picture you want it on a plane, and you need to tell it the height of the STL, you're just going to have to figure it out. I haven't done it, but I would love. I'm going to practice. I'm going to throw an image into ChatGPT and actually see if it'll create an STL for me, or whatever software. But you can do a search in Google too. Say what software can do it, what AI can do it.
People are using it on the laser side of things all the time. They use commands such as create a bas relief, I think it is, and it does it. So it's only getting the commands right really to turn it into an STL, I suppose.
Gotcha. Hey, folks, before we knock off, Julianne, the review link. So yeah, if you've gotten something out of this, first of all, definitely go to James's channel, which we are going to link not only in the description, but in the comments. And I'm sure they've already been in the comments. Make sure you go over there, check it out, subscribe to his channel. And also, if you feel like you've gotten something out of this, as a part of the service that IDC Woodcraft provides, we always appreciate getting 5-star Google reviews. So if you think you got a review, the link is now put in the comments. If you think you've gotten some decent stuff from us and you're appreciating this and the time that James has taken out of his day to spend time with us too, give us that thumbs up. And again, go over and visit his channel, subscribe to his channel. As creators, we like to get subscribers. Makes us feel good.
Always helps.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So his channel has been linked in the comments and will be in the description of the video as well. And he's a CarveCo guy, right? So you have a CarveCo link, right? If you're experienced, want to work with Carve, do you have any videos that actually work with the CarveCo?
Yeah, so I've got a series of tutorials on my channel, walking you through from installing the software through to using Rotary, doing 3D reliefs. They're all on my channel.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. The links that we are providing are his affiliate links. So, if you get it, then James will get credit for that. And it's all part of helping each other. And James is getting free bits too. So.
Everyone's a winner.
Yeah, and a coffee mug. Anyway, so folks, with that, we are going to check out. I got to collect my 2 oldest grandkids. They're going to come back with me to my house, and we're going to hang out and enjoy the rest of this rainy day. James, thanks for taking some time out.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone that stuck around after the initial technical issues.
Yep. Hey, that's life. We roll on. All right, folks. We will see you next Wednesday. I'm going to bring Julianne out. Do we have any special guests next Wednesday?
Not yet.
Yeah, so we'll have somebody. I don't want to go solo again next Wednesday. All right. Okay, with that, folks, give us that thumbs up. Give us a review if you feel like we've gotten, if you like what IDC Woodcraft does, and make sure that you go over to James's channel and subscribe to his channel. And with that, we will see you all next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard.